Hello, excuse my appearance. I just wanted to go live and present also my new description. The description part, for example, I'm not a licensed journalist, but have hyper evidential means recorded that involves wire crime acts and methods with the phones at journalist locations and with their predicate acts with their news stories where they attach me and others to fake words and about serious subjects like regarding that we and complete conversation, fake conversations with others, like regarding the World Trade Center, like regarding Sandy Hook. Now, these are names also recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, having been roles with coordinated what is simultaneously wrongdoing and predicate acts roles differentially as victims, but as victim predators. This is also relevant to where and how black and white treatments leave out the predicate acts delivery system method that was responsible for forcing, tricking, hurting, persuading, not just roles with it, but everyone blaming other things, others ourselves, with that breaching method that was doing that and using everyone that was enslaved, including our founding parents, who had to hide their roles syntactically with what actually led up to the Constitution, us being told to get the Constitution unabridged and to get Marbury versus Madison, meaning, quote, real justice must satisfy all appearances of real justice, unquote. Now, so there are only three branches of government. They're differentially criminally foreign influence as victim predators. Per this method, they knew they would make positive and negative treatments simultaneously as identity treatments, identity value treatments, the value of sequence treatments that would have to increasingly hide from all that nature would be demonstrating with and as the value of sequence truth as it actually is. American history begins with how that breaching method was already entrenched below anything, any nature of order, and below any um, nature of unity that could be formally conceived to foundation by our founding parents as modern nations each, because the human volume science, where and how we are actually individuals grouped in together, and where and how it is there is an actual hyper simultaneous conjunction to this. It is where and how it is most probable and is most practical and is demonstrable that and how one identity of value progression was before matter was generated. And it was and is to itself distinctly where and how it is not physics temporary itself, and where and how it is always itself. Now, you are this way in demonstration of itself because it is the hyper simultaneous as a value without logic has been denied the revelations, the protractions of the short words with the revelations. Like, for example, what slavery is about is about a breaching method that could not defend, that forced roles syntactically, all kinds of other ways at all locations, with and as sense and sensibilities that could not defend themselves syntactically. Therefore, functioning and ourselves from what was using that remotely, where and how they couldn't defend themselves syntactically and simultaneously defend them, be a quality of fact cheap in nature, capable of countering that which had complete remote possession over all identities of sophistication / non-sophistication, and where and how it engineered everyone as victim predators, self-valuing that, even though it's used as to hurt everyone, even no matter how powerful a leader could get, they could only be above locations, areas, and states already self-valued, being and having been criminally foreign influenced. This is a child abuses method that is multi-front, simultaneously elderly and middle age. Everyone's self-valued roles because everyone was kept needing preemptively shown. Everyone interbranch, for example, kept needing to hide the same lies with overt criminal enterprises, killers, people next to the body dumping spots that probably had nothing to do with that. And if they did, they wouldn't be able to be honest about that. There are other ways to discern this because of uses of it and because of uses of that. And so this breaching method assigned black/white, means it assigned all exception nature too, to value nature systems measured and maintained as uses. Our value nature systems use positive and negative. Identity is a relativity to positive and negative simultaneously. There's a difference between saying the sciences agree on things and saying that the sciences abridged agree about things. For example, regarding religion, they have physical delusions and they have simultaneously criminally foreign influence, factual nature qualities and aspects, and that are simultaneously valued. Where and how, what is hyper evidential is that and how sequence is being asked to be used as a value, to discern as a value. And with simultaneous, the identity of what is hyper simultaneous is being asked to be discerned as a value, distinctly, non-distinctly, and simultaneously by the Old Testament. And then distinctly, non-distinctly, and simultaneously by the Quran. But the stewards of the Quran and of the Old Testament are a whole bunch of ways, self-valued roles, needs, and natures, incapable, preemptively, and simultaneously from life progressions in the past that have locked everyone into positive and negative, speaking for what? Identity treatment, speaking for what the church means, speaking for what the Bible means, speaking for, how to qualify. We're talking about that. Speaking about so Adam looks more like the subject, and Eve looks more like the verb. These are two identities of volume that are like male and female, also with a quality of diffusion. Neutrality is a distinct identity of positive. Where and how we are a hyper additional. What is multiplicative is hyper additional. As exceptions and as exception nature simultaneously in demonstration of the same thing. One identity of value/value progression is hyper additional per where it is, how it is, everywhere at once, space/existence. So we could discern that and how it is not just space and it is not just existence. And we could discern where and how space is simultaneously an identity juxtaposed with physics, metaphysics, and identity, and manifest where and how space is invisible but still discernible with it. It increases the means to discern. The hyper visible but still discernible. Now, the breaching method increases means to not to discern it. It engineered roles with the syntax of identity as humanity, really why we are a species body of individual bodies. To course is other than this hyper native pure. So we should be able to sense, and for example, Native American rights are hurt. They're sensing, hyper Native American republic with free, actually liberated, actually integrity, positive and negative treatments, simultaneous identity treatments, title of treatments, ground details, distinction, finite, active, and progressive treatments. There are 5 identities of order that are, like, for example, that are simultaneously bound 3 ways as sequence / simultaneous nature. They are each 3. Where and how Jesus, there are things we learn through the nature of religions and of the law, while simultaneously, distinctly from how we learn from the physics of it, distinctly, non-distinctly, and simultaneously, and hyper-simultaneously. So, for example, the January 6th Commission, they're shown needs preemptively and simultaneously lies from the past. You need to hide remote possessions of themselves being and having been used. So they use locations. They use former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, is involved with uses of locations like in Newington, that with people that have been using remotely the locations next to the state capitol in Hartford, and next to WFSB in Rocky Hill, and next to the Fox Connecticut News in downtown Hartford, on off the Department of Homeland Security, since before it was the Department of Homeland Security, and locations next to it. They were involved with what is simultaneously, distinctly predicate acts roles, and simultaneously, distinctly criminal insidiousness roles. Now, it is also hyper evidential that and how people will pretend and get away with pretending not to understand such and legitimately not understanding such, relevant to where and how the short words in Revelation of the law being and having been told honestly. It has not been told honestly, or they attach those people or groups to fake words, fake nature of words, fake nature of understanding, trying to understand. In other words, there is an identity of value progression that will answer our questions, no matter who we are, where we are. And it is each identity at the same time, everywhere at once. Like when there's something positive to yourself, it's really positive to yourself. It's to all identities of your body. And your body, semi-nature is still positive. When it's completely positive to itself, it is still simultaneously only when it is positive to itself. That which is really the order of things, singularly. It is so the complete identity of each cell of your body is simultaneously 5 distinct identities of sequence / simultaneous nature as one volume and how it is making more of its volume from inside itself. We'll examine this. Those five, it's those, how it is manifest five distinct, grouped. It's where and how one identity of forever nature is making more and more of itself as more and more infinity nature, that it stayed and stays simultaneously greater than and more finite than the portion of volume slash S that we know as space slash existence. And its identity of relationship to itself stays inseparable from all parts of everybody, everything. And so decipher goes with where and how. These are three juxtaposed courses of reason relevant to where and how the hyper-simultaneous is distinctly, non-distinctly, and simultaneously itself, while being every other volume, distinctly, non-distinctly, and hyper-simultaneously, exception, nature, and demonstration, the same thing. For example, it is certain things constantly, and it is other things variably. And this is increasingly valuable to understand. And what it shows is the way and how to think properly is about understanding its identity, that which is actually hyper-simultaneous, its identity of relationship to itself, and the value of that, how they're equally increasingly value. And that is respected here formally, especially in overt criminal enterprises. That's with exception nature, and demonstration, the same thing. So in other words, people were kept differentially criminally foreign influenced by those crazy laws against everyone that we know as colonization, because where that phrase was conceived, and how it is conceived has been conceived since, has been tactically wrong, or they attach you to fake words, fake locations, fake ties to other people, fake natures, other ties to other people. People speak illusions of sequence shifts tied to this. People have been coordinating. People have been identity theft roles, identity theft, fraud, slander roles, which is one thing nature holds, which are three connected things that nature holds. The breaching method manifest as, where it is invisible but still discernible, / hyper invisible but still discernible, such as the increasing need to and value to understand the difference between criminal insidiousness natures of positive treatments, and where and how exceptions and exception nature works and work. For example, I don't know a Paul Abtett at all. They apparently took a picture of me standing in front of him to pretend other. They create fake exceptions where they call people liars at interbranch locations that have been used as weapons per that certain type of victim predator. That is the answer / S to a lot of the questions in American history. And two, where and how other actually found itself being justified or even having been entertained, told in the place of it. So everyone wanted to stay differentially not criminally foreign influenced. but uses of the qualities of fact-keeping nature, aspects of fact-keeping nature. We're logic that says it. Well, I didn't cause it, so I'll forget about that. No, people were made to make positive value nature progressions anyway, specifically to keep that hyperconjunctive, and conjunctive as the value of each conjunctive junction, distinctly, non-distinctly, and simultaneously. We could discern this because there is an identity they share, which is hyperconjunctive. Pantheism was about the hyperconjunctive. It is more probable and is more practical to convict. It is about, so in other words, it is functional, better than how a calculator works, than how a calculator works, or a computer. Where and how we could type in hyper before a word or a phrase or as an identity of volume, and nature after it, and can observe where and how actually, with honest contemplation and observation of subjects and predicate value in the volume, that language. So know on both sides of the halo, where the nature of the church is apart from the physical book /s, as the Bible /s. And note where and how that part about the sciences and about the rainbow. It says right in the beginning of the Old Testament, the speaker of the book of the course of logic, the differentiation begins the parsing of this is separating the firmament. And so the voice is saying, I see this is good. So this is separated from this. This is good. It's making more and more of an identity of relationship to itself as an extent of complete possession over all parts of space /existence, which is distinct from saying over all parts of space and existence. This is to say three things relevant to the Trinity, which are relevant to the species body of individuals, our actual identity. Our actual identity is actual identity of relationship to itself, science, syntactically. And the value of that. Value is a relativity to positive and negative simultaneously. The theory of relativity, that phrase, was forced, tricked, hurt, persuaded to be used, it's one of the victim predator reactions. Self-value, where and how self-valued are criminal insidiousness natures of positive treatments that originally and still are in collusion with negative treatments that are simultaneously overt / insidious. To discern this, the breaching method hurts all people and hurt all people of all locations, areas, and states in ways that never went away. And they never went away because the function of it never went away. And where and how the function of it went away never went away. It was databases oriented. But it was before that more finite and greater than, and while it was the value of those relationships, sense and sensibilities, of the identities of law as everybody, no matter if you're physically actually a person licensed to be law or not. Those processes, they knew that people would have to treat positive and negatives at each age of fact, GB nature, regarding it, individually grouped and simultaneously. Where and how, preemptively, and from the past. All identities of sophistication, like the agencies and their kids, the courts and their kids, the politicians and their kids, the overt criminal enterprises and their kids, as actually grouped properly. However, and forgiveness is important because differentially, but increasingly, overt criminal enterprises, private criminal enterprises, and the three branches of government individually grouped too. And then all together too, distinctly, non-distinctly, and simultaneously, they are kept needing to hide the same sequence shifts, find active progressive lies together, styles of it roles. People A through Z are involved with this because it's roles with uses of all identity the ground locations. Keeping that identity theft / fraud / slander method. That is one thing. It is manifest bound as non-distinctly, sickly against everyone, but sickly non-distinctly against us. So we can use this extent we are the common victim of something which is adapting by having employed how we are sickly distinctly victims, specifically to keep it from being discerned, specifically to keep criminal insidiousness natures of fake integrity only heard. Identities of theater as criminal insidiousness that never had the right to be legalized. They are recorded the overt criminal enterprises and the private ones in the branches of government, how since they are kids, sickly distinctly victims of how kept needing to hide the same sequence shift, find progressive lies together, for uses of remote uses of their identities and their identities of defenses to themselves. Really why and how they get involved with other people's business. Only to lock down people calling each other names, like for a war criminal. And they want us to fight with, is it ism? Oh, it's a capitalist, or it's a communist, or it's a, isms. They never spoke for capitalism, was never liberated. All kinds of natures of corruption are involved with the people at medical locations, with mental health, with various natures of courts, having been using phrases like that, with physical delusions simultaneously. It only takes, each branch of government, they individually grouped them together. We cannot leave out how they are differentially criminally foreign influenced. This means they are simultaneously wrongdoers relevant to certain subjects. In other contexts, though, tied to those certain subjects, they are simultaneously predicate acts, delivery system, method, roles. As methods, also roles keeping it screened. As motivations, as actually recorded natures, also keeping it screened. It wants and needs us to refer to identities, including identities of definition, as natures. Because its identity, we only have an extent of it to discern its complete identity through the hyper-simultaneous. Now, where that, even the simultaneous, the value of that which is simultaneous. For example, as why and how we are really species, body, of volume, distinct from all the other species, themselves too, no individual grouped and together. Cell nucleus, cell body, cell wall. One thing they are commonly is an identity of relationship as a sequence / simultaneous nature, as an identity of relationship to their shared volume as identity, and as identity's relativity to what is actually going to cause positive or negative value nature progressions, action natures. Our founders left us to demonstrate where and how fake means to cause positive value nature progressions, temporary. They were our being and having been employed to keep how functional the difference between temporary / lasting positive is being and having been employed by our nature unabridged, but it has been prevented free speech offensively, simultaneously preemptively, and needing per lies in the past in databases as wire crime acts and methods, illusions, and their conjunctions. Note the people's locations. Oh, you hear about that? Oh, I heard about that. And where that's used. See, there are remote possessions of each age and nature of campus. That's one of the things that are simultaneously spoken by the revelations of things that are true, always not denying exceptions, exception nature. And with exceptions, exception nature that are existent, and demonstration of the same thing. Like boxing, for example, what used and still uses white and black and references it, how it was used in history. It is still recorded self-valued collusions with how it wanted, syntactically, blaming other than the predicate acts delivery system method, blaming other than things like criminal insidiousness, even if they haven't been shown that words and those phrases. And that and how Americans weren't shown those and told those phrases. And how they got away with hiding that, is also evidence, hyper evidential. Now, one of the ways they get away with preventing what is hyper evidential from being spoke was by pretending to see and not to see other evidences, to understand statutes and precedents. They're leaving out exceptions and exception nature. It's because how this is easy to understand. How a predicate act is a demonstration of an identity of criminal insidiousness nature, forced as the engineering our factory nature has as ground. Conjunction also means to see this, the distinct value progressions as one. So boxing's fun. Thank you.